Could the Zenin clan's Tin Shadows technique and heavenly restricted users be intrinsically tied by fate, binding vow, or otherwise? Let's talk about it. But before we dive in today, I got to give a huge shout out to Kronos, not only for the inspiration for this video, but also for the insane level of support. You are an absolute mad lad, man. Your generosity is ridiculous. Thank you so much. And everybody, feel free to pause and read Kronos's full thoughts here, but we will address this stuff in the video. And I gotta say that, yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a really cool idea that Mahoraga and the Heavenly Restriction could be linked. All right, first let's talk about precedent, because we know that things can be intrinsically linked like this in the Jujutsu Kaisen world. For example, we know that Tengen, the Six Eyes Limitless user, and the Star Plasma Vessel are all connected by fate. Now, this was never expanded upon in the lore, so we don't know exactly what fate means. Is it just a force at work in the JJK verse, or is it just a term given to, the process that this is that maybe started from an ancient binding vow or something? We don't know. It doesn't really matter. The point is we can have separate things all linked like this. So is it a crazy stretch then to think that there might be some sort of link between one of the most powerful curse techniques in existence and the absolute anomaly of the Jujutsu world, a heavenly restriction with no cursed energy, both happening to be in the same clan? And before anybody says, yes, there are other cases of heavenly restrictions out there, but to our knowledge, there's never been anyone like Toji and then later Maki, right? They're the only ones that have had absolutely zero cursed energy. Other heavenly restrictions like Megamaru just have an entirely different trade-off, or people have very, very little cursed energy, but not zero. So is there something here? Now, obviously, JJK is over, so barring any new sequels or data books or interviews with Gege, we're never going to have an actual answer to this. But for my money, this just makes far too much sense and fits perfectly with the world that's been established here. So until it's falsified otherwise, this is going to be my headcanon, because just like with Tengen, the Star Plasma Vessel, and the Six Eyes Limitless user, we know that there are larger forces at play in the JJK verse, whether those are results of binding vows or otherwise, right? So I think it just makes too much sense with the information we have that these two things could be intrinsically linked. And the why of that, there's a million ways we could go, right? Like Kronos suggested, maybe it was part of the payment for getting such a powerful technique like the Tin Shadows. I mean, even amongst the Tin Shadows themselves, Mahoraga stands, so far above. Like, it's insane how powerful that is, right? So maybe the price that this clan had to pay for getting that powerful technique that would be repeatedly inherited throughout their lineage was that they would also have heavenly restricted users pop up every once in a while. Now you might be saying, well, hey, wait, how is becoming heavenly restricted in this way a punishment or a penance? Because you become one of the strongest people there are. And that is a fair point, but you got to remember, in this culture and in this clan specifically, they view strength with cursed energy above all else. Just having the Tin Shadows technique put Megumi in line for being leader of the clan. That's just ingrained in how they operate. So they shunned Toji and Maki, right, for their absence of cursed energy. So this was like a albatross hanging around your neck. So even though there was great power that came with it, they didn't view it that way. Now, we could also look at this in a more optimistic light, where perhaps the heavenly restriction wasn't the punishment or payment for Mahoraga, but was rather a gift, and maybe the only way a Tin Shadows user was actually expected to defeat Mahoraga. Because in the absence of anomalies like Gojo and Sukuna, how is somebody actually supposed to take this thing down? Much less a Tin Shadows user who has to do it by themselves, right? And yes, we could come up with some conceptual ways to maybe tie in the other shadows in a domain expansion to possibly deal with this thing, but it seems like a very tall order, right? So maybe a heavenly restricted user with zero cursed energy is an anomaly that could actually help a Tin Shadows user in the subjugation ritual without being flagged by it. Because normally a Tin Shadows user cannot have any help or else the taming won't work. But maybe somebody like Toji or Maki is the exception to that. And imagining that were the case, it is certainly interesting to think that there was only one truly heavenly restricted user around at a time. Maki was not full potential until after Toji passed away, right? So maybe there is some cosmic fate balance to always providing a Ten Shadows user with a heavenly restricted user that they could feasibly use. And I mean, in Megumi's case, these were two of his direct relatives. Now, assuming this were true, then the incredible irony of the Zenin clan would be just how they treat their heavenly restricted users, not realizing that they were the ticket to truly unlocking the strength of the Ten Shadows. And to cite back to Kronos' original comment, if we just think about a full potential heavenly restricted user and Ten Shadows user working in tandem, that's absolutely one of the scariest things in the verse. So again, barring any future falsification, I don't know why you wouldn't just assume this, because one, it seems to make perfect sense given the established lore we do know, and two, more importantly, it's an insanely cool idea. It's just fun to think that the heavenly restriction was intrinsically tied to helping Ten Shadows users defeat Mahoraga. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on was part of Kratos' comment where he talks about the potential of a Ten Shadows user putting adaptations from Mahoraga onto a heavenly restricted user. And while we do see Sukuna do some crazy genius level stuff with the Ten Shadows, including putting the Dharma Chakra wheel on his own back and undergoing the adaptation process for Mahoraga, I don't think we can extrapolate that to mean that he could then take the adaptations and apply them to himself or others. And I think the main reason is that if he could do that, then we would have seen it, especially with the world cutting slash, because Mahoraga adapted to the infinity and then was able to cut through existence. And Sukuna didn't just take that for himself, he copied it. And I know we're in semantics territory here, but I do think there's a distinction there. It wasn't just as if, he could apply every adaptation to himself. He's just as much of a genius to be able to understand what Mahoraga did when he saw it and then emulated that himself. So obviously that would be incredibly cool if you could take the adaptations and apply them to yourself or the heavenly restricted user, but I just don't think that's possible or the implication we were supposed to take from this fight. But again, it's one of those things that, we kind of have an absence of information, so maybe it's possible. So that's my 2 cents on all of this, but please let me know what y'all think about all these ideas down in the comments below. I would love to hear it. And I think this is one of the cooler things about not getting exactly every answer in the series. And before anybody gets, too mad in the comments, I am absolutely not giving Gege carte blanche to say that, yeah, it's good he didn't answer any of our questions. I would have absolutely loved to have some more answers on specific things, but for this in particular, I think it is one of the examples of kind of leaving the world building slightly more open so that fans, readers, whatever, can have these fun interpretations and contexts of things. Like thinking about, what kind of role did fate play in this world and what exactly was capable or what exactly are you capable of with a binding vow. So I think these are fun questions and allow us again to make fun videos like this theorizing about. So anyways, y'all let me know all of your thoughts, but again, huge shout out to Kronos. Just thank you so much for the support, man.